Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Business Growth Show, where we talk about all components of business and how to utilize them for exponential growth. My name is Nathan Cassiotis. I'm a serial entrepreneur, international speaker, business growth strategist, investor, coach, mentor, and consultant. And today I have two awesome guests. They are entrepreneurs and the founders of Change Recruitment, which is one of Australia's fastest growing niche technology recruitment agencies in Australia. They partner with Australia's fastest growing tech companies as an extension of their business to provide digital talent where others cannot, leveraging their passive candidate pools in extremely niche verticals whilst delivering best in-class candidate experience. They are not your typical hit and hope style of recruitment agency. They are quality first and quantity second. Welcome, Michael Carter and Mike Hollowbread, and thank you for being on my show.
Cheers, mate. Well, welcome. Love it.
Thanks for having us. Yeah, appreciate it.
Yeah, you're very welcome, guys. And first for today, having two people on the call at the one time. So got to get that one out of the park. So awesome to have you both here. And I'm sure it's going to be awesome for everyone watching and listening today. So you're both very successful entrepreneurs. So for those people who don't know who you are, just please introduce yourselves by telling us about you and your journeys.
Yeah, no dramas. I suppose I'll jump in first. Mate, I actually started out my career as like building surveying and architecture, and that's what I did at university. That's what I kind of set my business up back in the UK doing. I decided it wasn't really for me. It's kind of a slow-paced, slow sort of environment, and not really the career that I wanted to go down. Came over to Australia, did the usual backpacking sort of jobs as you do, you know, building sites and the such. Got into recruitment because my dad actually had a recruitment agency back in the UK when I was very little, and just mentioned that it's quite a people focused sales sort of environment that I was kind of hoping for when I got over here. I joined Opus Recruitment Solutions as a trainee consultant. Made my way up the ranks there doing the JavaScript market, so that's front end and back end Node.js roles. That won't mean too much to you right now, but that's what I specialized in. I made it to director in that company. Grew the team from 0 all the way up to, I think it was 25 when myself and Mike left. At that point, we decided we were going to both start Change Recruitment, and since then it's been that's pretty much where we are now. You know.
Yeah, my story is not dissimilar, I guess. Also from the UK. I left straight from university actually when traveling. So when traveling around Southeast Asia, I had a friend in Australia who invited me over and started my career alongside Mike, about 6 months behind him. To this day, he was still my boss when we left, which hasn't really left. It does leave a sour taste. But yeah, so we launched Change Recruitment just over a year ago. Yeah, so it was actually 12 months just last Friday, which was an important milestone for us. I guess we've seen a more growth than we thought potentially we was going to, and I'm sure we'll dig into it a little bit later. But like, yeah, at the moment we're focusing purely on tech and niche recruitment solutions and looking to grow our capability across that.
Yeah, awesome, guys. Lovely stories, and yeah, awesome how you've had success in working for someone, and now you've taken the plunge and gone over the year mark. So congrats with that in the business too, and then with all the growth. And obviously, yeah, you've got the strategic niche recruitment business in the tech area. Do you want to maybe sort of break it down a little bit more, just about like sort of the type of roles for people that maybe whether they're in that space or not, of sort of what you normally are recruiting for?
Yeah, absolutely. Look, we focus purely on the digital side of recruitment. So typically we'd be looking at software engineers, developers, but across different verticals within that. You'll find that a lot of recruitment agencies out there will have, say, one person that focus is on software development. But what you probably won't know is within software development, there's many different languages. So you can use C#, for example, Java, Python, Ruby, JavaScript, whatever it is. It's very select talent pools that will be broken down into, and different companies will use different languages to build similar products, right? So we break it down like that. So we'll, instead of having one person look at software development as a whole, we'll have 5, 6, 7 people that will break it down into those specific languages. And then we will look to kind of branch out further down the line when we start looking at data, security, project management, things like that. But for now, it's a real focus on the software engineering aspect.
Yeah, nice, awesome. And yeah, I've worked on IT projects, and yeah,
nice.
definitely very interesting, and all these different languages, whether you're in that space or not. It's a bit like normal languages, right? You got to understand them and learn.
That's how I explain it to the consultants when we bring on trainees, right? It's like Spanish and French. We're all speaking the same thing, but different ways, right?
Yeah, different ways, exactly. Love it. That's awesome stuff. So obviously, we want to have, good, effective hiring practices, but what issues do you see, I guess, in these companies if they have, ineffective hiring practices?
I think a lot of the time it comes down to process and speed to market, and in the tech industry especially, and this has changed quite a lot over the last 12 months. There was an onus on doing technical challenges for candidates, which could often take 3, 4, 5, 6 hours sometimes, right, of a candidate's time, only to not be successful. And a big part of what we do is try and consult our clients that those hiring practices are a little bit outdated, and I think that's probably been the biggest barrier for companies that want to hire, that still have those technical challenges. We see between around an 80% drop off of people that won't even interview at a company that has a technical challenge, because they've got 4 or 5 other opportunities where the technical challenge isn't a part of the process. And I think part of that comes down to their time. But it's also a much smoother process, right? And in the tech space, people have up to 10 opportunities at a time at the moment that they're evaluating. So that's certainly part of the candidate's evaluation process that probably wasn't there before.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, it's certainly that the market shifted, right? COVID has kind of created the perfect storm in the tech scene, where you've got projects that were put on hold for 2 years that are now coming into fruition. You've got budgets that need to be spent that haven't been spent. You've got a lack of people coming into the country from outside of Australia that typically propped up the tech market. So it's flipped on its head. The candidate is king or queen in some instances. So it's important that we consult our clients around, I suppose, the wider market and what their competitors are doing. So yeah, that's certainly part of the process now.
Yeah, nice. And from my understanding with tech stuff, like some of it could be ongoing, but others could be projects, right, that happen for a year or multiple years at the same time. And there's probably other variations of, do you hire them, or are they sort of contractors, and things like that. So what are you sort of seeing in terms of these, different variations about how the tech sort of is moving forward?
I think our business, we actually split our business almost down the middle for contract. We would call contracts and permanent recruitment, or temp. Yeah, you're right. There's a lot of large projects going on in Australia at the moment, and those projects typically last between 18 months and 2 years. And I think when you're approaching candidates about those, there's usually quite a big split in the market when it comes to people who want permanent roles and people who want contract roles. That varies for reasons. I mean, permanent roles are typically considered more stable, although that's not always the case, obviously. And typically contracts can be seen as the riskier of the 2 options, which inevitably a project will finish, and that could mean that you roll off of contracts. What we see at the moment is there's very, very, very small amounts of contractors that are not in roles, and even if they are wrapping up a contract, they're almost engaged immediately on something else. And I think a lot of permanent candidates that are in the market are seeing contractors that aren't being rolled off of contracts, or aren't being pulled off of projects, are being put straight onto another one, and actually considering moving across to the contract market. And there's the obvious pay discrepancy, where a contractor typically over the course of 12 months would earn 30% more potentially than someone who's permanently doing exactly the same job.
Yeah, awesome, love that. And I guess there's the term digital recruitment, and I guess what you guys are doing is a little bit different there, with sort of stuff about how you're recruiting. So do you want to maybe just share about, I guess, your process and how the digital recruitment sort of is changing now these days?
Absolutely. Look, I think we come to the conclusion that we need to approach the market a little bit differently. Like, it's no longer the case that you can stick up a job advert for a technical role and expect 20 applicants and then you pick the best one, right? That doesn't exist anymore. So your traditional routes to market like Seek, LinkedIn Recruiter, even the LinkedIn Recruiter outreach program that you can use, like even that doesn't return the response that you need anymore. So we looked at it in two different ways. We can automate as much of the outreach as possible, and we can try different platforms to connect with developers outside of LinkedIn and Seek. Your Stack Overflow, Medium, Slack, like all these different platforms that other recruiters aren't using. We want to use those, and we want to also automate as much of that as possible so that we're continuously getting a good supply of candidates through. But on the flip side, we've had to go back to, almost an old school way of recruiting and kind of get that human element back into it, because you need to be making 50, 60 calls a day to candidates to get one or two people that might be interested in your role. And you really need to be able to sell the role. I've heard quite a lot of recruiters over the years say that, look, recruitment isn't a sales role, but when a candidate has, like Mike was saying, 10, 15 different opportunities, how do you make your opportunity stand out? And that's where our value comes in, because at our heart, we are salespeople. Like we are able to represent our clients to the best of our ability and get across all the points that particular candidate is looking for. And again, it's another differentiator, because we're such niche specialists within our chosen talent pools. We know our candidates inside out because we're having multiple conversations with them over the year. It's not just a hit and hope. Oh, this candidate looks good for this. Let's tell him that it's 180 grand a year and they've got pool table in there, for example. When in actual fact, the candidate is looking for a work from home role because he's looking after 3 young kids. That sort of information is what we use to be able to best represent our roles to our candidates.
Yeah, awesome, mate. Love that, and love the differences now about how the industry is changing and how you guys are doing things differently to make sure that you connect the right people together. And I guess the selection process is important, right? About what you touched on it there. So do you want to maybe just share maybe a few more things about what's important? What key things should we are required in that selection process?
I think candidates at the moment have sort of got to pick at a bunch, and I think probably maybe 18 months ago people were moving for salary, right? So there was huge salary increases of up to 50, 100% even sometimes of candidates that were in Australia. But I think we probably hit the ceiling in terms of where salaries will go and what companies can offer before it becomes unprofitable. So I think now it seems that remote work and flexibility is a new area of which candidates will now be looking at when deciding which sort of position they're going to go for next. So some of the large corporations in Australia are trying to bring people back into the office. Typically, not all, but a lot of candidates in the tech space have worked from home for 2 years, have been super productive, and don't want to be doing an hour and a half commute each way to do the job that they was doing from home before. It's a lot of dead time. Most have families and dealing with their families. So I think the next, big move will be depending on which companies offer which flexibility. And I think you'll see more companies go into like 4-day weeks or 9-day fortnights. A lot of our clients are doing that to try and make themselves competitive outside of the obvious salary aspect, which isn't really people's main driver anymore.
Yeah,
I think even when you were phrasing that question there, you probably thought we were going to go into more of the candidate side of things in terms of selection process, right? But it's completely flipped. Like the selection process, the criteria that companies have to bring engineers on into their dev teams has gone down significantly, because they can no longer take 4 weeks to look for the perfect candidate, because that perfect candidate will have gone by the time that they've completed their selection round. That you can't compare one candidate against another. Oh, let me just see one more CV just so that I can make sure that this guy's the right guy. like that time is gone. So that when we actually look at selection process, it's more so for the candidates now, like when they're selecting what client they're going to go work for. So yeah, completely flipped.
Yeah, so interesting. Love that. And yeah, thanks for breaking that down. And I think that's it touches on as well with about diversity and inclusion, right? It's a big topic in businesses now, and having different people in there to make it interesting, whether it's in person or virtually or hybrid type roles. So what are you seeing in that area there, and why is it important, I guess, to have a diverse team as well?
I think it's important in tech, especially. You need to have diversity because of the diversity of the products. Like you don't want to. Most companies we work with that are startups are building something for the whole nation, right? They might have a target market, but pretty much within every target market, 50% of those people are going to be men. 50% of those people are going to be women. I think it's incredibly important that when they're building those products, it's not built by a group of men who are deciding what women want. Like you need to have women in there saying, "Oh no, like I don't actually think this part of this product actually appeals to how I would receive the product." So I think companies are looking for diversity to make sure that their product offering can make sure it's applicable to all people, rather than just aimed at one specific demographic. Like us internally, we try and keep as diverse a workforce as possible, because everyone brings something different to the table. Me and Mike have been doing this a long time, but we'd be stupid to think we know everything. And even now there's people that have been with us 6 months where they do something, we're like, that's probably better than the way we've done it for 8 years, and take their advice on board. So I think if you don't have that diversity across a workplace, you never get those other ideas. You just have a group of people who all think the same thing, pushing in the same direction. So you need some people to challenge the status quo as such.
Yeah, love that. Yeah, the innovation type piece and everything else there. Awesome. Really powerful stuff. And we touched on a bit before about company perks, right? So, that can be a key reason to join as well. Like what do they get? Like whether it's the working from home, like that's a potential perk as well, but also, if they're going into the office, what other perks do they get to join a company? So what are you sort of seeing, I guess, in the market about what sort of perks, are included that make the role, I guess, more appealing, for the candidates?
It's an interesting one because it has been evolving quite rapidly. Like you used to have your Google-esque type workplace where it's like they've got a barista in there, they've got a chef, you've got sleep pods, you've got ping pong tables, snooker tables, like whatever it is, like they'd have all the mod cons. I think because of the switch to work from home, and that work-life balance side of things, I think it's more like the way it's gone to get people interested has kind of switched to your Generation Z type people that have kind of come into the workplace, and they're looking for a purpose. They're looking for something that they can kind of align their goals and their what's the word? Their
values.
Yeah, exactly. Align their values with the company. So they'll be looking at that. Like what's the mission statement of the company? Are they what we're tending to see a lot more of these days is employee share plans and shares that go with the company. So they grow with the company as the company does well. So does the employee, right? So I'd say that's where the shift has gone. I think that the shares is a huge driver for candidates to look at which companies they're going to go for beyond your typical salary and work from home sort of type of arrangements.
Yeah, I think as well, like training and upskilling, like part of everyone working remotely, or a large percentage of people working remotely, is there is I guess like a junior to mid-level of candidate that isn't getting the instant hands-on advice you would need that you'd usually get in an office. So usually if you're sitting in an office, you're not only learning when you've got structured training, but you're learning all the time, right? You're learning off the person sitting next to you. If you've got a problem, it's a 1-minute fix where you can just tap someone on the shoulder and ask. With that being removed, and it's now much more structured in terms of, you might get an hour a day with someone senior where they're walking you through things. Companies are now implementing more structured training plans using different softwares, whether that be internally, whether they externally put them on training programs. can continue in that development. I think there's a lot more development going into people than there was before. And I think that's a big perk, especially for someone who's starting out in the industry or 3-4 years in the industry and they can't learn off someone that's sitting next to them. I think having that structured training is what companies are offering, and yeah, that level of candidate are looking for.
Yeah, awesome. I love that all stuff. Really, really powerful. And I guess let's delve into it a bit more now, right? Because obviously you guys are the recruiters, but you want to, make sure that from there, it's obviously the next steps are inductions, right? After that, so that they go in well, and then, obviously get in the training, and you've touched on the training there. So do you want to maybe share a little bit more about, because you obviously want to make sure the person stays in the role, like, it's a good fit and everything like that, so everybody wins in the situation. So about maybe sharing about inductions, like what's important there at the start, so that they hit the ground running without being overwhelmed, to an extent, and whether you touch on some training stuff as well.
Yeah. I think it has to start before they start. Inductions should be, like most people generally in jobs that have a 4-week notice, they should be buddied up with someone way before their start date, that potentially isn't going to be their manager, someone else in the business in a similar role, or maybe from a different department that's doing a similar role, and they can sort of help a lot culturally of what's going to be expected. Traditionally, even getting people together, I know it sounds silly these days, but getting a team together and getting them to meet the team before they start. They're not walking in on day one thinking, what am I getting myself into? They're walking in day one knowing this is the processes that we go through. This is a person I've got that isn't my manager that I can go and talk to if I'm having an issue. And you don't want to go complain to your boss on day one that you're not enjoying yourself, right? But if you've got someone else who's adjacent to that you can speak to, I think that helps a lot with people when they're coming into new businesses. And it's definitely something that we try and implement here, even with our staff, right? We want to make sure they have someone to talk to. Like on the Thursday, they'll go out for lunch with one of the more senior recruiters that can give them some advice on their journey so far, but also be someone they can confide in should they not want to come to us straight away.
Yeah, absolutely. And you'll see a lot again, I know we touched quite a lot on the work from home aspect, but it's actually a really difficult thing to implement when you've got a candidate completely working from home. Smooth processes in that regard are paramount to the initial success of the candidate, and I suppose the happiness, right, of the role. So we've seen a lot of our clients that will post out laptops, starter packs where you got your t-shirt and your branded mug and all that kind of stuff, and then even more iPads, home setup for desks, or things like that are all really nice touch points, which I think show the candidate that little bit of love that they're probably not getting when they would have been getting had they been in the office. So things like that certainly help.
Yeah, awesome, really powerful stuff there. And you touched on processes there, and I guess when I think about process, obviously you want to improve a process, but at the same time you want to try and automate certain processes as well, which is really important. So do you want to maybe touch on automation in the recruitment process and sort of some areas there about how things can be automated so it makes everybody's lives a bit easier too?
Do you mean on sort of the automation of the process of inducting, or automation of the process of recruiting?
I guess whatever you feels most important there. I guess it's your side of things, whether it's from the the company side or the recruitment side in the process, just because I guess you guys obviously play a key role in the process there, in getting people, but is there maybe something on the business side that they can do as well to make sure it's more efficient at the same time?
I think you need from an agency perspective, you need to really invest heavily in your ATS or CRM or whatever you're using to track candidates through processes. Like we use Vincherry, which we found we looked at all of the possible options, and we found it was probably best in that regard. And what I mean is, typically when I started in recruitment, booking an interview would be an hour process sometimes, but you're going back and forth with different managers. You're trying to find out when people are available. Vincherry has a process where you send a manager a link, they go on, they give the times in their calendar, that goes over to a candidate, and in the background the interview has been processed without you really being involved in having to go back and forth on times. So they're quite they might seem like marginal changes, but at the moment, if you're booking 5 to 10 interviews a day, sometimes you're saving 3-4 hours a day. So us from an agency perspective, where time is essentially results, you know, like having those pieces of software that remove a lot of the clunky things that you would think about recruitment and automate that, allows us to essentially spend more time actually speaking to candidates and clients.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And even on the, like, on, again, within Cherry, it sounds like we're plugging it a little bit, but we spent a huge amount of time choosing our CRM, because it is essentially the engine room of our business. And even outside of Mike said, like, we could spend 3-4 hours more a day speaking to candidates. Like, even on that side of things, like, we're able to extrapolate data sets from candidates that I suppose that usually wouldn't be quantifiable. So things like, you know, do they want remote work? You know, their gender, do they need sponsorship, their salary, like, all these things are very important when you're taking a job brief, to know which candidates you need to be speaking to. So whereas typically your older CRMs will be like, right, you can pull up a list of front end developers, for example, but there could be 1,000 people there. So like your job as a recruiter then is to phone through 1,000 people to find out if they're the right people for this specific job you've just been given. Whereas now, because we're able to extrapolate that data out and take a look at it and go, right, actually the people that are right for this are only 50 people. Like that's saved a humongous amount of time for us as recruiters, and we're able to quickly identify the people who are perfect for the job, as opposed to, you know, trying to thumb in a candidate that maybe not be 100% right, whether that be the salary or the work from home or the technical skills, whatever that might be, you know.
Yeah, awesome. Love it, guys. And I love systems, and yeah, awesome to see you using the power of CRMs and data, right? Because it's power's in the data. And I guess, you know, with a lot of this tech, you know, sort of candidates, I guess, that you're getting it's probably a little bit different, you know, because every role is a bit different, every sort of industry is a little bit different, you know, and obviously you've got these different languages that you mentioned as well in there. And I guess maybe an intriguing question, because you'll probably see it on your side, is if someone's, you know, wanting to get out there and learn these types of things, or potentially learning a new language, right, in the tech world, is what are some of the positions that are being more needed, or, you know what I mean, like in certain projects that, you know, in that area there, so that it's, I guess, more in demand from, you know, these companies as well?
Yeah, the demand falls heavily at the moment. Cloud. So cloud computing has been growing year on year, almost 100%, I think, in Australia and globally. Like, all of the large players in Australia have moved the majority of their infrastructure to cloud. So that's more down an infrastructure route, right? And that's probably the fastest growing area in IT. But the area in terms of demand for technology skills, and I think the quickest to pick up, would potentially be the JavaScript front end languages. There's a lot of courses out there, you know, maybe like 8-12 week courses where people can go in from any sort of background, jump on a course and learn enough within that 12 weeks to be considered a junior candidate and be able to go into a position. So if I was new, starting out in the industry, I think I would probably be looking at either of those areas, with JavaScript potentially being the smoother landing ground, but with the cloud and DevOps piece probably the faster growing.
Yeah, even like you've also got your probably new and emerging technologies, like your machine learning, data science. Obviously, it's not something that you can do in a 12-week boot camp. You're probably going to have to go to university and pick up a computer science degree. But yeah, Mike's right. Those sorts of areas are just exploding right now. I mean, like, you've seen the rise of autonomously driving cars and smart cities and things like that. And there's engineers that need to build those. So that's huge growth area.
And you've also got blockchain, crypto, right?
Yeah, Web3.
Yeah, Web3 technologies, and there's a lot of companies out there that are either crypto wallets or exchanges, but actually whole ecosystems that are being built around blockchain. And I think maybe over the next 5 years that'll probably be a fast growth area. We don't do a great deal of work in it at the moment, because it's still, from a recruitment perspective, probably in its infancy. But yeah, it's an area that we'll be focusing on going forward.
Yeah, nice. And just something that I'm sort of been made aware as well, I'm not sure if you guys have an opinion on it, is about NFTs, right? And there's a bit of hype around NFTs, but apart from, these, stars selling something for millions of dollars, if you talk about NFT, non-fungible token, right? For people that don't know what NFT means, is like the digital sort of ownership of something. And I've heard about storing things like as NFTs and having it as a true source of something, like whether it could be code or, physical items, like other stuff like that, agreements, maybe things like that. Are you guys hearing any of this or seeing any of this sort of in your space as well?
Look, it's a huge area, and I think I'd do it a disservice. I don't know enough about it to be able to speak. I don't want to embarrass myself here, but we do work with a few clients and have worked with a few clients over the years, whether that be crypto exchanges like Mike was saying, or places like Immutable who own the rights to Gods Unchained, and they like, man, this is, as I say, it's a whole nother area, but yeah, like there's way more applications outside of your typical Bitcoin, for example, which the majority of the public will know about. But yeah, you can do things like smart contracts. You can do exchanges, like people bought houses through these methods and things like that. So yeah,
the metaverse,
yeah,
a new way of living. Yeah. But yeah, it's probably like from our business perspective, it's an area like I say that. I think when you're doing recruitment and you're setting someone up to do a 360 recruitment desk, you probably need quite a large pool of both clients and candidates to a point, and I think those technologies probably aren't where we would need them to have someone focused on recruiting those people full time. Maybe globally, but Australia is a relatively small market, so yeah, it's not an area we've gone too deep into.
Yeah, nice. That's all right. It's always good to, ask the questions, just get some thoughts going. I'm sure everybody's about this stuff as well. So just thought I'd put it out there. And I guess, a lot of people talk about the good stuff, but not necessarily the challenges in business and stuff like that. And you guys have hit over the year mark, which is awesome. Do you want to maybe share one of the challenges that you guys have had, growing the business from the start and how you overcame that challenge? So I think it's good to hear it, from that perspective from you guys as well.
Funnily enough, mate, recruitment, like internally. I know that sounds stupid, but as with every industry, even potentially more so than tech, recruitment, a lot of people were out of recruitment when COVID first hit. It was very, very challenging in that period for recruiters across the whole landscape. Maybe less so in tech. There was obviously whole industries that were shut down, right? So a lot of people left the industry then. It's another industry that's relied quite heavily on immigration over the years, I think. So for us, actually hiring people internally was probably our first challenge. Like, who are the sort of people we want to hire? How are we going to hire them? What is our offering that's different? Similar to the conversations we're having with our clients, right? Like, what differentiates you? We wanted to come up with things within our ethos and within our journey that was a little bit different. I mean, most recruitment companies will do a similar thing, right? You're looking for people for clients. So we wanted to differentiate ourselves in some of the ways we've discussed today. So I think for me that was probably biggest challenge is what's our value proposition and how do we get people in? And so far I've been successful and extremely happy with the people that we've hired. We've done a lot of interviews, over the course of the last 12 months, and it's always been key for us to find people with a similar drive that want to be successful, but also share some of our vision of just not only taking but giving a little bit back. Yeah,
and I think that like where Mike touched upon there, that probably led immediately into our second problem, was that look, we hire trainees, right? Like everybody that we bring into the business so far has been trainees because that we have a certain way that we want things done, and we instill those values into our consultants, because we believe that each person within here should be able to represent our brand the way we would represent our brand. So that was really important for us. But as I say, like it led immediately into our second problem, was that mine and Mike's time was completely taken up, or by either interviewing or training. So then you've taken two of the main breadwinners out of the company, because we're no longer doing what we're supposed to be doing, which is recruitment and bringing on clients and finding candidates and stuff. So that was actually a really challenging part, probably something that we hadn't kind of factored in to our time. So instead, we did what most founders would do and just did 18-hour days instead of your typical 8, just to get all the work that we needed done doing. So I'd say that was our 2 biggest challenges right from the start.
Yeah,
I think as well, for anyone that's thinking in recruitment, especially, I can't talk for other industries, but being a good recruiter and running a business is far more different than I probably thought it was going to be. You know, there's a lot more that goes into running a business from a back office perspective, from a system perspective, from contracts, from, you know, bookkeeping, and all the things that potentially was a bit guarded from before. And look, Mike's run his own business in the UK, right? But I think for me that was a bit of a rough landing potentially, you know, in how much work goes behind running a business outside of its general operations. And I think we're probably maybe in the last 3 months comfortable with the processes we put in place and the people and the suppliers that we're using. But that's quite an arduous process that you think would be easy, but it's generally not.
Yeah. Absolutely. I mean, we laugh about it now, but when we moved into this office, we had to get kitchen fitters in and like do all that kind of stuff, and we spent days like designing the office to where we look. And again, like that takes you away from what you're actually supposed to be doing, which is recruitment. We laugh now, but we can both effectively design an office and get a kitchen fitted.
love it. Yeah, awesome points there, guys. And men of many talents. That's the entrepreneur life, right? Many hats that we've and stuff like that. And sounds like you guys are making it happen in different ways there. And so much value today. And as we're wrapping up, I guess what one key piece of advice would you give to all the entrepreneurs and everybody watching and listening today?
I think have a focus and stick to it. I think when you're starting a business, it can be very easy to be pulled into 5 or 6 different directions. Like, work out what your offering is and stick to that offering. Have confidence that you know what your offering is good, and don't deviate from that too much. Like being an entrepreneur, you have a lot of ideas, right? And you're always like getting pulled to the next thing. But my thing would be, and this is what we've generally tried to do, is focus on what we know we're good at. And what we're offering.
Yeah. And then I suppose, like, bolting onto that, because I couldn't agree more, is farm out the stuff that you're not good at. Like, if there's a specialist in another place, like, don't try and do all your own accounting, get an accountant. don't try and design a kitchen, get a kitchen designer, you know. 100%. Like, there's specialists for a reason, and choosing your team wisely in that regard is paramount to the growth of the business. Yeah,
love that. Awesome points there. And we connected through our networks where I learned about your awesome journeys from being in recruitment for over 8 years to now founding Change Recruitment, which is one of Australia's fastest growing niche technology recruitment agencies in Australia. You're awesome guys, and I'm sure you'll continue to innovate the recruitment industry and put the people and the candidates in the right positions and the right companies at the same time. I'm very grateful that we connected, and look forward to working with you both in the future. So how can people find you, get in contact with you?
Look, jump over to the website, so changerecruitment.com.au. We've got our hello and our numbers on there. My email is mh@changerecruitment.com.au. If anyone wanted to reach out, look, happy to give any advice. It's been a hard but fantastic 12 months for us so far, and I'd love to help people on that journey. If anyone did want to speak, happy to do so.
Yeah, I know it's a tough one when you're first looking to kind of go and do your own agency and stuff. But I know a lot of recruiters out there that have that entrepreneurial spirit, but they just don't know where to start. So if people do want to reach out, similar to Mike, mine's mc@changerecruitment.com.au, or just jump onto LinkedIn. Like, send us a connection request. We're happy to jump on there and initiate the chat from there.
Yeah, awesome guys. Definitely check them out. Changerecruitment.com.au. You've got the emails, and check them out on LinkedIn as well. That's where it's all happening. And thank you to everyone for watching and listening to this show where we talk about everything on business growth. Please like, subscribe, and leave us a 5-star review. You can find me on Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, and YouTube as Ethan Cassiotis, or visit my website, ethancassiotis.com. I completely agree with you, or do I? The only way you'll know is if you tune in next time. So until next time, remember that our business grows, but we learn skills and take action using them in spite of fear. So remember to design your growth and results.